Maya Jackson sat in the waiting room of Carter Tech, clutching her resume in one hand, her portfolio in the other. The modern glass building towered over the city, the sun reflecting off its sleek, polished surfaces. Inside, everything felt cold and efficient. Gray walls, minimalistic furniture, and the quiet hum of computers in the background. Maya had done everything right to get here, but now, as she waited for her interview, a familiar feeling of doubt crept up inside her. She adjusted her blazer, glancing down at her reflection in the shiny glass of the conference room. Her natural curls were pulled back into a neat bun, and she wore a business suit that she had carefully chosen to look as professional as possible. "I've got this," she whispered to herself. But deep down, she wasn't so sure. Maya had grown up in a small town where opportunities like this were rare. Her family had always worked hard, but the systemic barriers they faced made their success feel harder to attain. She'd been told throughout her life that she was smart for her background or well-spoken for someone from her community, phrases that sounded like compliments but left her feeling othered. Still, Maya never let it deter her. She excelled in school, graduated at the top of her class, and taught herself how to code when her high school offered no computer science classes. Now, at 22 years old, she had just graduated from college and was determined to break into the tech industry. She had poured hours into preparing for this moment, creating a standout portfolio and practicing for her interview. This was supposed to be her big break, an internship at one of the top tech companies in the city. But as the minutes ticked by, doubt gnawed at her confidence. She glanced around at the other candidates waiting to be interviewed. All of them were white. They looked at ease, chatting with each other about their shared experiences at prestigious universities, casually exchanging details about their connections within the industry. Maya felt like an outsider, invisible. Finally, the receptionist called her name. "Maya Jackson? You're up." Maya stood, her heart pounding as she followed the receptionist down the hall to the conference room where her interview would take place. Inside, Ethan Carter, the CEO of Carter Tech, sat behind a large desk, his eyes glued to his computer screen. He was in his late 40s, dressed in a tailored suit, his expression focused and businesslike. Without looking up, he motioned for her to sit. "Thank you for coming in, Miss Jackson," Ethan said, still typing away as she sat down. His voice was calm but detached, as if this meeting was just another formality in his packed schedule. "Thank you for the opportunity," Maya replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Ethan finally glanced up, his blue eyes scanning her briefly before returning to his computer screen. "I've reviewed your resume," he said. "Interesting background. I see you didn't attend any of the top universities we typically hire from." Maya's heart sank a little. She had expected this, but it still stung. She'd gone to a state college, unable to afford the tuition of elite institutions, but she knew her work ethic and skills spoke for themselves. "I may not have attended a prestigious school, but I've worked hard to build my skills," Maya replied, maintaining her composure. "I've included examples of my coding projects and app development work in my portfolio." Ethan nodded but didn't open the portfolio. Instead, he leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "That's admirable, but we have a very specific culture here at Carter Tech, and it's not just about skills, it's about fit." Maya felt a pit form in her stomach. She had heard this phrase before, fit. It was often code for whether someone looked like or came from the same background as the rest of the team. She had seen it play out in other interviews, and it was always a red flag. "I believe I could bring a unique perspective to your team," Maya said, her voice firm but polite. "Diversity in backgrounds can lead to innovative solutions, especially in tech." Ethan smiled, but it was the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're all about innovation here," he said, his tone dismissive. "But we've built a strong, cohesive team over the years, and that's what's most important to us. I'm not sure we're looking for someone I'm not sure your experience fits with what we're doing." The air in the room felt heavy. Maya's heart raced, but she remained calm on the outside. "I understand," she said, though she felt the rejection coming. "But I believe my experience with various coding languages and my ability to adapt quickly would make me a valuable asset." Ethan shook his head lightly. "It's not about your skills, Miss Jackson. You seem very capable, but we're looking for someone who can blend seamlessly into the culture here. I just don't think this is the right place for you." Maya felt her chest tighten. She had been turned down before, but this time it felt different. It felt personal. She stood up slowly, forcing a smile despite the disappointment swirling inside her. "Thank you for your time," she said, her voice even. Ethan nodded, already turning his attention back to his computer screen. "Best of luck in your future endeavors." Maya walked out of the office, her footsteps heavy as she exited the building. Outside, the sun was still shining brightly, but it felt cold now. She stood on the sidewalk for a moment, her mind racing with anger, sadness, and determination. Once again, she had been underestimated, dismissed before she even had a chance to prove herself. But Maya wasn't going to let this moment define her. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text to her best friend. "I'm done waiting for them to see my value. Let's build something of our own." As she walked away from the towering corporate building, the seed of an idea began to grow inside her. If they wouldn't give her a chance, she would create her own. Maya spent the following days thinking over the rejection. It wasn't the first time she had been turned away, but this one stung deeper. Every interaction with Ethan Carter replayed in her head, especially the way he dismissed her with that hollow phrase, "You don't fit." It wasn't about skills or qualifications, it was about something else. Something she had felt for years, but could never quite name. The silent wall of bias, the invisible barrier between her and opportunities that people who didn't look like her never seemed to face. Despite the frustration, Maya knew one thing for certain. She was done begging for a seat at someone else's table. The more she thought about it, the more determined she became to forge her own path. She didn't need Carter Tech. She didn't need Ethan's approval. What she needed was to believe in herself and her abilities. She had the skills, the vision, and the drive to create something meaningful. Now she just needed to take the leap. Sitting in her small apartment later that week, Maya opened her laptop and began sketching out an idea. Her passion for software development wasn't just about coding, it was about solving problems. She thought back to all the other people she knew who had been overlooked or undervalued because they didn't fit the mold of the traditional tech world. Talented freelancers and coders, particularly people of color and women, who struggled to find opportunities in an industry that so often prioritized who you knew over what you could do. What if, Maya thought, there was a platform that connected small businesses with freelance tech talent? An app that would break down barriers and allow coders like her to showcase their skills directly to clients. A space where businesses could post projects and developers could bid on them without worrying about whether they fit into someone else's culture. The more she thought about it, the more it made sense. She had been coding for years, and she knew the freelance market was full of potential. Small businesses often needed short-term tech solutions, but didn't have the resources to hire full-time developers. And there were thousands of talented coders out there looking for work, just waiting for an opportunity to prove themselves. With this vision in mind, Maya reached out to her best friend, Tara, a fellow tech enthusiast who had always been her biggest supporter. Tara, a brilliant coder in her own right, had faced similar challenges breaking into the industry. They had met during a coding boot camp years ago, and ever since, Tara had been Maya's partner in everything from hackathons to side projects. "Tara, I've got an idea," Maya said excitedly when they met up later that day at a local cafe. "What if we created our own platform? A space where freelance developers, especially those who've been shut out of the traditional tech world, could connect directly with businesses." Tara's eyes lit up. "I love it. You're talking about an app where businesses post projects and freelancers can bid on them, right? Kind of like a tech marketplace?" "Exactly," Maya nodded. "But here's the twist. It wouldn't just be for anyone. We would focus on giving opportunities to coders from underrepresented backgrounds. People like us who have the skills but are constantly overlooked because we don't fit the mold." Tara leaned in, already scribbling down ideas. "We could build in features to make sure freelancers aren't judged by anything but their skills. No photos, no irrelevant details, just pure coding talent. We let the work speak for itself." Maya felt her excitement growing. Yes, and we could create mentorship opportunities too, connecting more experienced freelancers with those who are just starting out. The idea took root quickly, and over the next few weeks, Maya and Tara threw themselves into building the foundation of their new startup. They worked tirelessly, pulling all-nighters in coffee shops and in Maya's apartment, coding, designing, and reaching out to their network for feedback. They decided to call the app Open Code, a name that represented both the openness of the platform and the code that would power it. It was a labor of love, born out of the rejection that Maya had faced at Carter Tech and the countless other doors that had been closed to them over the years. But building the app wasn't without its challenges. Funding was tight. Neither Maya nor Tara had wealthy connections, and they had to scrape together their savings just to get the project off the ground. There were times when Maya wondered if they were in over their heads. Would anyone even care about their platform? Would they be able to compete in such a cutthroat industry? Still, every time she doubted, Maya reminded herself of the people who would benefit from open code. The coders who, like her, just needed a shot. And every time she thought about Ethan Carter and how he had dismissed her, it fueled her drive even more. One night, after hours of coding, Maya sat back in her chair, staring at the interface they had designed. It wasn't perfect yet, but it was real. Open code was coming to life, and with every line of code, she felt like she was reclaiming her future. For the first time, Maya felt fully in control. She wasn't waiting for someone to give her an opportunity anymore. She was creating one. Months had passed, and open code was no longer just an idea between friends. It was a fully functional platform. Maya and Tara had worked through every challenge thrown their way, from technical glitches to financial hurdles, but their determination had paid off. The app was live, and though the user base was small at first, the buzz around it was growing. Small businesses, particularly those with limited tech budgets, started taking notice of the platform's simplicity and its access to diverse talent pools. One night, Maya was at home, staring at the dashboard of their platform. The numbers were modest but promising. Every day, new freelancers were signing up, posting their skills and connecting with businesses in need of their expertise. What set OpenCode apart from other platforms was its commitment to showcasing raw talent. The developers' identities were secondary to the work they could do. Here, Maya's vision of a merit-based system was coming to life. "Maya, you've got to see this!" Tara's excited voice crackled through the phone, interrupting Maya's thoughts. "What is it?" Maya asked, her curiosity piqued. "We just got our first major client," Tara nearly shouted. "A national small business network wants to use our platform to source all their tech talent for an upcoming project. They heard about us through an article in Tech Innovators." Maya blinked in disbelief. "Are you serious? Tech Innovators? How did we even land on their radar?" "I have no idea," Tara replied, her voice brimming with excitement, "but it doesn't matter. We're about to blow up, Maya." Maya leaned back in her chair, a grin spreading across her face. For the first time since starting OpenCode, she felt like all the hard work was starting to pay off. What had once been just an idea fueled by frustration was now gaining real momentum. With each new user, each new project, Maya felt a sense of validation, something that Ethan Carter had refused to give her. But success wasn't without its challenges. The growth of OpenCode brought new pressure. The platform had begun to attract attention from investors, some of whom were intrigued by its unique model. However, others doubted its viability, questioning whether a platform so focused on underrepresented freelancers could really succeed in a saturated market. Maya and Tara knew they were facing an uphill battle, but they were determined to keep going. As OpenCode continued to grow, Maya found herself juggling multiple roles: developer, business owner, and leader. She spent hours coding new features, answering support emails, and negotiating with potential partners. Tara handled marketing and outreach, using her connections to spread the word about OpenCode's mission. The two of them worked tirelessly, often into the early hours of the morning, driven by a shared belief in what they were building. One afternoon, while Maya was working on a bug fix, an email popped up in her inbox. The subject line read, "Meeting request, Ethan Carter, Carter Tech." Maya froze, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. For a moment, she thought she might be seeing things. Why would Ethan Carter be emailing her? She clicked on the message, her heart racing as she read through it. Dear Ms. Jackson, I hope this message finds you well. I have recently come across your platform, Open Code, and I am impressed with its innovative approach to connecting businesses with freelance talent. I believe there could be potential for collaboration between Carter Tech and Open Code. I would love to schedule a meeting to discuss possible synergies. Please let me know if you're available sometime next week. Best regards, Ethan Carter, CEO, Carter Tech. Maya stared at the email in disbelief. The same Ethan Carter who had rejected her months ago was now reaching out, asking for a meeting. Her mind raced with conflicting emotions. Part of her wanted to throw the email in the trash, to dismiss him the same way he had dismissed her. But another part of her, the part that had built Open Code from the ground up, knew this was an opportunity. She wasn't the same person Ethan had rejected. She was no longer the nervous intern hopeful. She was a successful entrepreneur, and now she was in control. Maya called Tara immediately, still staring at the email. Tara, you are not going to believe this, she said, her voice a mix of shock and amusement. What happened? Ethan Carter just emailed me. There was a pause on the other end of the line before Tara burst into laughter. Wait, the same Ethan Carter who told you that you didn't fit into his company? That Ethan Carter? Yup, that one, and now he wants a meeting. He says he's impressed with Open Code and thinks there's potential for collaboration. Tara scoffed. Wow, the nerve. It's funny how things change when you start making waves, huh? Maya leaned back in her chair, still processing the irony of the situation. It's wild. I don't even know if I should respond. You should, Tara said, her voice steady. But on your terms. You're not that intern anymore. If he wants to work with you, it's because he needs you, not the other way around. Maya nodded slowly. Tara was right. This wasn't about seeking approval anymore. It was about knowing her worth. You're right. I'll respond, but I'm going to make sure I'm the one setting the terms. Later that evening, Maya crafted a carefully worded response. She thanked Ethan for his interest, but made it clear that Open Code was in a strong position and would only consider collaborations that aligned with their values. She suggested a meeting date but left it vague, letting Ethan know that she was in control of the conversation now. When she hit send, a sense of empowerment washed over her. She wasn't that wide-eyed intern sitting nervously in his office anymore. She had built something real, something successful, and now Ethan Carter was the one knocking on her door. The week leading up to the meeting with Ethan Carter felt surreal for Maya. She had spent so much time building her own path, pushing past the rejection she once felt, and now, the same man who turned her away was coming to her for help. Every part of her wanted to walk into that meeting with her head held high, reminding him that she didn't need him or his company. But as Tara had reminded her, this was business, and there was power in controlling the narrative. The day of the meeting arrived, and Maya found herself standing outside a chic downtown cafe where they had arranged to meet. She had chosen the location deliberately, a neutral space where she felt comfortable. As she smoothed down the front of her blazer, she couldn't help but smile at how different she felt this time compared to when she had walked into Carter Tech's office months ago. Back then, she had been nervous, unsure if she'd be given a chance. Now, she was in charge. When Ethan Carter arrived, he was easy to spot. He had the same confident air about him, wearing a sharp suit that seemed out of place for a casual cafe. His expression, however, wasn't as dismissive as she remembered. This time, there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. He was here because he needed her, and they both knew it. Maya, Ethan greeted, extending his hand. Thank you for meeting with me. She shook his hand, her face composed but calm. Of course, let's sit. As they took their seats at a table by the window, Ethan wasted no time launching into his pitch. I've been following Open Code's progress for a few months now, and I have to say, I'm impressed. Your platform is exactly the kind of innovation the market needs right now. At Carter Tech, we're facing some challenges with scalability and reaching new markets, especially as our clients demand more agile solutions. I believe a partnership between Carter Tech and Open Code could be mutually beneficial. Maya listened, her face unreadable as Ethan spoke. His words were polished, professional, exactly what she would have expected from him. But something about the way he said, mutually beneficial, struck her as hollow. Ethan wasn't here for mutual benefit. He was here because his company needed saving. When he finished, Maya took a moment to let the silence linger before she spoke. I appreciate the interest in open code, Ethan, but I want to be clear. Open code is growing quickly, and we've been successful because we've stayed true to our values. We're about more than just connecting businesses to tech talent. We're about creating opportunities for people who have been left out of traditional tech spaces. Ethan nodded, but there was a tension in his posture. I completely understand, and that's why we want to work with you. Carter Tech has always valued diversity and innovation, and I think this could be a great chance to showcase that. Maya raised an eyebrow, resisting the urge to laugh. Is that so? Because I remember sitting in your office months ago, where you told me that I didn't fit into your company's culture, and now you're here, asking to collaborate. Ethan's face flushed slightly, caught off guard by the directness of her comment. He quickly recovered, but the shift in power was undeniable. I didn't realize, that was never about you personally, Maya. It wasn't personal? Maya interrupted, her voice calm but firm. Because it felt personal. But you know what? It's fine. I've moved past that. I built something from the ground up, and now open code is exactly where it needs to be. I don't need validation from Carter Tech, and I certainly don't need to fit into anyone's culture. Ethan sat back, realizing the mistake he had made months ago was now coming back to haunt him. I didn't mean to imply. I know exactly what you meant, Maya said, her voice steady. But here's the thing, Ethan. I'm not looking for a partnership that simply benefits Carter Tech. If I'm going to consider working with you, it has to be on terms that align with Open Code's mission. We value inclusion, transparency, and giving people a real chance based on their skills, not their background or whether they fit into someone else's world. Ethan's expression softened. He was no longer the untouchable CEO. He was a businessman on the brink of losing something valuable. He sighed and nodded. You're right. I made a mistake, and I won't pretend I didn't. What I said back then was wrong, but I'm here because I believe in what you're doing. Carter Tech needs fresh ideas, and frankly, we need to learn from you. Maya leaned back, crossing her arms as she studied him. I'm glad you can admit that, but here's the deal. I'm not interested in giving up control of open code. If we do work together, it will be a licensing deal. You can use our platform for your projects, but open code will remain independent. No changes to our structure, no attempts to reshape our brand. Is that clear? Ethan hesitated for a moment, clearly weighing the options. He knew he was in no position to negotiate. That's clear, he said finally, nodding. I can agree to that. Maya smiled, feeling a sense of victory. She had just turned the tables, reclaiming the power that had been denied to her months ago. Good, then let's move forward. But know this, Ethan, this is about more than just business. It's about changing the way this industry works. I won't compromise on that. Ethan nodded again, his expression resigned but respectful. Understood. I'm looking forward to working with you, Maya. As they shook hands to finalize the deal, Maya felt a surge of pride. This wasn't just about proving Ethan wrong. It was about showing herself that she could stand on her own, that she could create something meaningful without needing validation from the traditional gatekeepers of the industry. When the meeting ended and Ethan left, Maya stayed behind for a few moments, sipping her coffee and looking out the window. The city buzzed with life outside, but for the first time, she felt like she was truly a part of it. She had carved out her own place, not by fitting in, but by building something entirely new. And now, Open Code was about to become even bigger. The partnership between Open Code and Carter Tech progressed in the weeks that followed, but it was entirely on Maya's terms. Ethan had upheld his agreement to keep Open Code independent, and under Maya's leadership, the platform continued to grow. The media soon picked up on the collaboration, and articles began circulating about the young black female entrepreneur shaking up the tech industry. Maya's face graced the covers of business magazines, and her inbox flooded with messages from investors and other companies looking to partner with her. But through it all, Maya stayed grounded. She knew that success in the tech world, especially as a black woman, came with its own set of challenges. For every article praising her achievements, there were doubters who questioned whether OpenCode's focus on diversity would continue to thrive in a competitive market. However, Maya had learned long ago to silence those voices. One afternoon, as Maya sat in her office overlooking the city skyline, Tara walked in with an excited grin on her face. "Have you seen the latest numbers?" Tara asked, holding up her tablet. "We've doubled our user base in the last month alone. Small businesses are loving the platform, and freelancers are saying they've never had this many opportunities." Maya's heart swelled with pride. "That's amazing. I can't believe how far we've come." Tara laughed. "Believe it. We built this from scratch, and now it's a game changer. But you know what's the best part?" "What?" "The freelancers," Tara continued. "I've been reading the feedback from the users, and so many of them are saying how OpenCode gave them their first real chance. Developers who've been overlooked for years are finally getting hired for projects they're passionate about. It's not just a platform, it's changing lives." Maya smiled, a deep sense of fulfillment washing over her. That was exactly what she had hoped for when she first came up with the idea for OpenCode. It wasn't just about business or profit. It was about creating opportunities for people like her, people who had been told they didn't fit, but had the talent to change the world. As Tara continued to excitedly discuss their next steps for expansion, Maya's phone buzzed. She glanced down and saw an email from Ethan Carter, marked with high importance. "Maya, can you meet me in the conference room?" the email read. "There's something we need to discuss." Maya's eyebrows furrowed as she read the message. "What's going on with Carter Tech now?" she muttered under her breath. She hadn't spoken with Ethan much since they finalized their deal, but the tone of his email suggested something serious. "I'll be right back," Maya said to Tara as she stood up and grabbed her laptop. "Ethan wants to talk about something. I'm not sure what." Tara gave her a thumbs up. "Good luck, boss. Let me know how it goes." Maya made her way to the conference room where Ethan was already seated, his expression tense. As she sat down, she noticed the faint lines of worry etched on his face, lines that hadn't been there during their first meeting. "Maya," Ethan began, his voice low, "we've run into some unexpected problems at Carter Tech." Maya leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. "What kind of problems?" Ethan sighed. "Our clients are leaving faster than we anticipated. Our reputation took a bigger hit than I realized, and it's starting to impact our long-term contracts. Frankly, I don't know how much longer we can hold on." Maya's gaze narrowed. "I see. And how does that involve OpenCode?" Ethan hesitated before speaking again. I was hoping you might consider coming on board as an advisor. Your expertise, your platform, what you've built is exactly what we need to turn things around. You've proven that you understand this industry better than anyone, and I think your involvement could help save Carter Tech." Maya stared at Ethan, processing his words. The man who had once told her she didn't belong at his company was now asking her to save it. The irony wasn't lost on her. "Let me get this straight," Maya said slowly. "You're asking me to help rescue a company that rejected me because I didn't fit?" Ethan's face flushed with embarrassment, and he quickly shook his head. "I know how that sounds, and trust me, I regret what happened before. But things are different now. I'm different now. I've seen firsthand what happens when you don't embrace innovation and diversity. I'm asking you to help because I respect what you've done and what you're capable of." Maya felt a flicker of something, pride perhaps, or maybe vindication, but she didn't let it show on her face. Instead, she kept her expression calm and measured. This wasn't about revenge or proving herself to Ethan. It was about making a smart decision for OpenCode and the people who relied on her platform. "I'll be honest with you, Ethan," Maya began. "I don't need Carter Tech. OpenCode is thriving and we're just getting started. But I do care about making a difference in this industry, and I do believe there's value in what Carter Tech could be, if it's willing to make real changes." Ethan nodded, his eyes hopeful. "That's exactly what we need. Real changes. I'm committed to it, Maya, and I need your help to make it happen." Maya took a deep breath, considering her options. This was a big decision, one that could shape the future of both Open Code and Carter Tech. But Maya knew she had something Ethan didn't: control. She had built something from the ground up, and she wasn't going to let anyone take that from her. "I'll agree to advise," Maya said finally, her voice steady. "But I'm setting the terms. If I'm going to help Carter Tech, you need to be ready for real structural changes. Diversity isn't a checkbox. It's about who you hire, how you lead, and how you engage with the world. If you're not ready for that, I'm not interested." Ethan's face brightened with relief. "Absolutely. Whatever changes are needed, I'm on board." Maya nodded. "Good. Then let's get started." The weeks that followed Maya's agreement to advise Carter Tech were transformative. True to her word, she pushed for real change within the company. She didn't just make surface-level suggestions. Maya challenged everything from the way Carter Tech recruited talent to the projects they prioritized. Her vision for a more inclusive and innovative tech industry became the guiding force behind the restructuring. Under Maya's leadership, Carter Tech began to pivot. They started hiring diverse talent, reaching out to communities that had been overlooked by the industry for years. Maya's contacts in the freelance world through Open Code proved invaluable. She connected Carter Tech with brilliant developers and innovators who brought fresh ideas and perspectives, revitalizing the company from the inside out. At first, the changes were met with resistance. Some of the older employees at Carter Tech were reluctant to embrace the new direction, clinging to outdated notions of what fit meant in the tech world. But Maya was patient, persistent, and unwavering in her belief that the company needed to evolve or risk becoming obsolete. One day, as Maya sat in a strategy meeting with Ethan and several of Carter Tech's senior executives, she noticed a shift in the room. The tension that had once filled the air was starting to dissolve, replaced by something new: curiosity, openness, and most importantly, respect. Maya was no longer the outsider, the woman who didn't fit. She was the leader who was helping to save the company. "We've secured 2 new contracts," Ethan said, his voice filled with optimism. Both clients specifically mentioned how impressed they were with our new direction and our commitment to diversity in tech solutions. "This is working, Maya." Maya smiled, but she kept her response measured. "This is just the beginning, Ethan. Real change takes time, and we're only scratching the surface." Ethan nodded. "I know, but I'm seeing the potential now, and I'm grateful for everything you've brought to the table." After the meeting, Ethan pulled Maya aside. "I have to say, Maya, I don't know where we'd be without you. What you've done for Carter Tech, it's more than I ever imagined." Maya looked at him, her expression thoughtful. "You know, Ethan, this isn't just about saving one company. It's about shifting the way the entire industry thinks about talent and opportunity. What we're doing here is proof that innovation comes from all kinds of people, not just those who fit into a narrow box." Ethan nodded, clearly moved by her words. "You're right. I see that now. I should have seen it a long time ago." Maya gave him a small smile, acknowledging the weight of his admission. "We can't change the past, but we can make sure the future looks different." As Maya left the office that day, she couldn't help but reflect on how far she had come. From being rejected by Carter Tech to becoming the force that was turning it around, it was a journey she hadn't anticipated, but one she was proud of. She had built Open Code from the ground up, proving that there was room for people like her in the tech world. And now, she was shaping the future of an industry that had once tried to shut her out. In the months that followed, Carter Tech's transformation continued. The company became a leader in diversity and inclusion, setting a new standard for the tech industry. Open Code 2 continued to thrive, with more businesses and freelancers joining every day. Maya's vision of a tech world where talent and skill were the only factors that mattered was becoming a reality. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Maya received a text from Tara. "Hey, I'm at the office. Got some great news to share. Come by when you're done." Maya smiled and quickly made her way to Open Code's office. When she arrived, Tara was already waiting, her face lit up with excitement. "Maya, we just hit a major milestone," Tara said, barely able to contain her enthusiasm. "We've officially crossed 1 million users on Open Code." Maya's jaw dropped. "Are you serious? 1 million? Tara nodded, her grin widening. "Yup. We did it. For a moment, Maya just stood there, letting the weight of that number sink in. 1 million users. It was more than she had ever dreamed of when she first started building open code in her small apartment, frustrated and determined to create something different. Now, it was a thriving platform that had given countless freelancers a chance to showcase their skills and connect with real opportunities. We really did it, Maya said softly, a deep sense of pride washing over her. Tara nodded. And we're just getting started. As the two of them stood there, taking in the magnitude of what they had accomplished, Maya felt a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. It wasn't just about the success of open code or the turnaround at Carter Tech. It was about the impact they were having on real people's lives. Every new user, every small business that found the perfect developer, every person who had been told they didn't belong but was now thriving, that was the true measure of their success. Maya turned to Tara, her voice full of gratitude. Thank you for believing in this from the start. I couldn't have done this without you. Tara smiled. We did this together, and there's so much more to come. As they celebrated their milestone that evening, Maya knew that this was only the beginning. She had created something powerful, something that was making a difference in the world. And as she looked toward the future, she knew that there were even bigger things on the horizon, not just for open code, but for the entire industry. The story that had started with rejection had transformed into one of triumph, resilience, and change. Maya wasn't just carving out her place in the tech world, she was helping to reshape it entirely, and this was just the start.